Cambridge Film Show.
Cambridge Radio.
Hello, and welcome to the Cambridge Film Show, your fortnightly excursion through films big and small that you can catch across the city and South Cambridgeshire this weekend. I'm Lorcan O'Neill, and co-hosting with me today is the not-so-invisible woman, Emma Marchant.
Hello.
And our viewers today are the fiery Luke Irwin.
Hello.
Stuart, It's Clobbering Time Pask.
Hello.
And Miss Fantastic Vicky Eyre.
Hello.
We have yet another bumper 8 films to get through, spanning cinema and streaming, starting with the MCU's long-awaited adaptation of the Fantastic Four, of course. Then on to Netflix's coming-of-age rom-com My Oxford Year. Sticking with Netflix for South Korean thriller Wall to Wall. We take a domestic look into the life of Jane Mansfield with My Mom Jane. Aussie twins Danny and Michael Philippou follow up their terrifying Talk to Me with another grisly horror in Bring Her Back. Liam Neeson picks up the badge of Lieutenant Frank Drebin in Naked Gun. Another beloved comedy character makes a return in Netflix's Happy Gilmore 2. And we end with the 4th installment in Disney's musical Zombie series. So, with all that to get through, let's see if the MCU has finally cracked that fantastic formula.
Famous around the world, please welcome the Fantastic Four. Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch.
I love you, Johnny.
And the Thing.
Hey, what time is it? Say the thing.
That's not really something I say.
It's clobbering time.
That's just in the cartoon.
Among the many properties that Disney took a hold of after the acquisition of 20th Century Fox, Fantastic Four's inclusion into the MCU has been among the most anticipated, with a stellar cast including the ubiquitous Pedro Pascal, leading Vanessa Kirby, The Bears, Ebon Moss-Bachrach, and Stranger Things alum Joseph Quinn. The superpowered family must stand against a planet-hungry threat from outer space. Stu, this is the third attempt by a big studio to capture the magic of the 60-plus-year-old comic book series. How did they do?
It is definitely the most fantastic of the 4 attempts to date. There we go, got that in early. It really sort of puts to shame some of the previous attempts. I mean, it was an okay effort with 2005's Fantastic Four. That was sort of an interesting take on it at the time, but it sort of went downhill for the sequel in 2007 with Rise of the Silver Surfer, and then we don't talk about the one in 2015 because that was just trash. But this one has been a very sort of interesting take on it, particularly with the backdrop of the Marvel Cinematic Universe against it and how they're going to shoehorn the family into the upcoming events of the next big Avengers titles. And I think they've done a pretty good job. It's kind of got a sort of a Jetsons meets space opera vibe with some really sort of cool 1960s via the lens of the multiverse aesthetic. The sort of visual effects are pretty good. Certainly better than, say, Quantumania, for example. And I didn't even really realise until after seeing the film that the big bad has a practical costume which was filmed, and then with a layer of CGI over the top. So that was a pleasant surprise as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So seems like a relatively glowing review from Stuart. Vicky, how did you get along with it? I've always found Fantastic Four quite a goofy, random ensemble. Did the show showcase why it's such a popular comic book series, do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I grew up with Ian Grufford and Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, Fantastic Four. I actually forgot that there was another boot or retake of this, and I really did enjoy the originals. I thought, although goofy, they're very comical, they're very fun, but that isn't quite what this is. I think compared to the, my original ones in the early 2000s, this one, although in a really well-designed set universe, which makes it look a bit more calmer and enjoyable for a Marvel film, because I think they haven't actually put a lot of work into what I would say is like good world building or set design for a singular film in quite some time. They're very much like, well, this is Earth, you know what Earth looks like, but this is completely different. And so although they've done a really good job with the marketing and making it very accessible, the characters in themselves are much more less goofy and a bit stronger than I've seen them become before. I think there's been a lot of talk about Vanessa Kirby's character, Sue Storm. Like, she is a powerhouse in this film. Like, and that's not just me being like, oh, but she is an actually very strong female character that it's not one of those, like they kind of hand it over. Like, she does just genuinely have these powers. And I think she's the first mother that we've seen in quite some time. That isn't Scarlet Witch. That was a different thing. But yeah, no, she's a very strong character, and she doesn't play it off as any kind of way. She is just very naturally doing it. And Pedro Pascal he's quite stoic in this, and I know there's been talk that he was meant to be at the forefront of Avengers, and that maybe it's been pulled back, but I think he did have a good personality in this. I didn't expect him to hold back as Reed Richards. It's a different side to his acting that I haven't seen, although he is everywhere. It's nice to know that there is different things he can do. And I love Joseph Quinn. I think he's so enjoyable. I know some people didn't expect him to be cast as Johnny Storm, but I think he pulled off very well, and I had a good time throughout all of this. I thought it was a good story. I had a good beverage with this. It was very, very fun.
Okay, we're 2 for 2, Luke. Is the MCU back?
Maybe the beverage is what I was missing watching this film. I think it's no secret that the MCU has really struggled, and one of the things that actually brought me into this film, because I'm not a Fantastic Four person like you, Lorcan, I kind of think the idea is a little bit silly that 4 people go up to space and they have a horrible accident and they come down, but they all have very different complementary powers. So we haven't really established. So we've got Reed Richards is really bendy, and Sue Storm can make fire. No, Johnny Flame makes fire, and then Sue Storm does wavy things with her hands.
I think Sue Storm just always seemed to do whatever Sue Storm needed to do, historically.
Yeah, she does a lot of wavy things with her hands. And
Is she not, as the kids say, incredibly OP, Sue Storm? It seems she feels like she's got all powers at all times.
I don't know what OP is. And I thought one of the things that was interesting here is that Marvel are swinging for the fences. You might say they're out of ideas, possibly if you're cynical, and they're going back to this property that they've repurchased to make this film. And one of the things that I really did like about this film is I think this is showing off what can be done with a multiverse story. As Vicky says, we've got a very different aesthetic here. We're in Earth 8-1 something rather than 616, which that'll mean a lot to some people, but not to others. And what you do get is you do get a very interesting, unique visual style. And that allows this film to stand out and not be a typical Marvel product. For the most part, you still unfortunately have characters sort of doing quips at very ill-judged moments. And I think, for me, the film struggled to manage the tone in a lot of places, which is a problem that Marvel has consistently had. And just because the setting is different, I don't think those problems are any different here. I think the biggest issue with this film is the character work is terrific. For half of this film, it's a really good, whimsical character drama, and in the opening 20 minutes, it sets up all these minor villains that the characters have fought off. And I think the peak is Paul Walter Hauser as Mole Man, which was very reminiscent of the plot of The Incredibles, if anyone recalls that. And then they introduced the big bad of the film, and it suddenly feels like this film has suddenly become a disaster flick, and it kind of renders a lot of what's happened before this kind of a bit silly, that you end up with these world-destroying stakes around what was otherwise a character drama. And I don't think those two things really paid off in the end. The final set piece was interestingly shot, and Galactus, that's his name, played by Ralph Ineson. Does some interesting voice work. I believe he also does motion capture. That's perfectly serviceable. I think as far as Marvel villains go, it's okay. It just feels like it's been plopped into a different film.
Okay, Emma. I only recently caught up with Thunderbolts, and I was shocked at how...
I haven't seen Thunderbolts.
Thunderbolts, I thought, was very shockingly thoughtful and ambitious and stripped back. Does this feel like more of the same for Marvel for you?
No, definitely not more of the same. And I'm sort of with you in that I remember the Fantastic Four as a comic book, really, growing up in the sort of 70s and early 80s before any of the film iterations happened. And I was super excited about this. And I think there's a lot, which we've all discussed, there's a lot to like about it, the aesthetic, the cut. But I feel that a really well-cast film wasted those characters, and in particular I thought The Thing, I mean, like you say, it is crazy. They go off to space and they come back with these just wacky powers, and I felt that The Thing in particular, because the thing is kind of heartbreaking. He doesn't want to go up to space and then end up as a massive rock. And I think that could have been an Ebon Moss-Bachrach. I was so excited about him. And they have this really weird, brief moment with him and Natasha Lyonne, who is a big, and maybe that's going to come to something in Avengers Doomsday. I don't know. But they have this kind of like half-baked romance there that never comes to anything. We have obviously the gender swap of the Silver Surfer, I think, Shalabar, played by Julia Garner, which led to quite a kind of furore at the time of casting. But I thought they played that really well. But again, you don't get an awful lot of that. It just kind of scratches the surface. You get a lot of a very cute baby. You get a lot of quite a chilly Vanessa Kirby, which I enjoyed, but I think maybe it was a little bit too overly dramatic for what is a comic book film. And honestly, it was just a bit of a dull story. I really wanted to like this, and in the end, I've ended up liking Superman. I mean, we are spoiled for choice at the moment with two brand new superhero movies, and in the end I think if I was going to pick one, which I know you shouldn't say that because you don't have to pick one, you can have both, you can have it all, but I would say Superman really pleasantly surprised me, and this kind of disappointed me a bit, and that's a shame.
Yeah, I think there's some points here. Like overall, it's a very well polished product, and overall, I think it's done very well. But I think there are some points in the film that sort of had me sort of looking twice. There is some interesting CGI infant moments where the child seems to be purely CGI, and then interacting with Ben Grimm as well, who is similarly sort of CGI in there, and it sort of glitches a bit in the midst there, and it looks a bit poorly executed, or could have been polished better. And I think again at the same time there's that criticism again. We had the same sort of criticism about Superman, was that these films tend to always end up with some sort of heavy stakes, destroy the city, mass collateral damage. It's been done, it's tired, it's tested, and it could be like, it could have been a bit more interesting.
But this is a little different though, isn't it? Because you've got the fact that he wants the baby, Galactus wants the baby, so you have this whole mother-baby, how much do you sacrifice to save the world? But it's hard to cover that in, as we've said before, a fairly goofy Jetsons aesthetic film.
Yeah.
My only comment was, as a generation that's grown up with knowing what a CGI baby can look like on screen, i.e. in Twilight, this was a better scenario.
Oh my goodness, or the Squid Game baby. Let's not forget the Squid Game baby.
There's many a CGI baby going about, but I'm glad to know that in the year 2025 we have come this far, that it is not the same mistake that has been repeated in the past.
Maybe one day technology will become so great we can have a real baby. Well, Fantastic Four: The First Steps is a certificate 12A, and it's showing at the Light and the Everyman.
Okay, over to a couple of streamers, and let's first check out Netflix's latest rom-com, My Oxford Year.
Welcome to the University of Oxford. Your time here is precious. Seize it.
We have a student all the way from
New York.
New York, New York. Welcome, welcome.
Flirting with the hot teacher on the first day?
No,
Oh no, I love it.
That is a serious bit of crumpet.
Can I walk you on?
Well, I wouldn't want to drag you away from your harem of girls back there.
Wow. Harem girls are anything, it's patient.
Starring Sophia Carson, last seen in Netflix's Christmas action number Carry On, and a plethora of good-looking but to me relatively unknown Brits, My Oxford Year tells us the story of Anna, a super bright American who has already graduated summa cum laude from Harvard and has a job lined up at Goldman Sachs, but of course, like we would all do, is ditching that for a year to follow her dream and study Victorian literature at Oxford. But this dream her dream year goes swiftly awry when her Victorian poetry lecturer turns out to be the meet-cute cad Bridgerton's Corey Milchrist from the fish and chip shop. Romance and unexpected complications arrive. Is Anna going to stick to her regimented life plan of just her perfect year on her bucket list, or will she allow life to happen to her? Luke, you are, as we well know, our rom-com devotee on this film. Like we say, I was really interested. When I turned this on, I was like, oh my goodness, this was directed by Ian Morris, who is an In-Betweeners alumni. He wrote, I think, the In-Betweeners movies, and possibly was even involved.
He created the show.
Well, there we go. So I was very excited when I saw that, because I thought this is maybe going to be a little bit less tame than the usual Netflix fare. Were you also pleasantly surprised or excited?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I had genuinely high hopes for this film, and I know you set me up as the rom-com expert, and a lot of people wonder whether I'm doing that ironically or as a joke. I just want to because I don't look or sound like someone who likes rom-coms, and I want to preface my review by saying that I genuinely do have a love for these films. And I think the culture clash, which is what this is setting up to be, is such a staple of romantic comedies, and I think it's such a fun premise to have a young, New York-based, second-generation Cuban immigrant coming to Oxford. You can picture so many of those stories of the big city girl who has to go to college or goes to a village. You see so many of these, and they're so easy to do in theory. I don't know what's really gone wrong here. It doesn't really establish Anna's Americanness. There's not really a culture clash so much in this film because we don't really see her as an American or a Cuban immigrant. She's just someone who really has a fetish for Britain, and the film is just playing off this the entire time. It's almost like someone's spinning a wheel of British tropes that they're throwing into films. So it's like, oh, here's a scene with a Victoria Sponge. Here's a scene where someone eats fish and chips. Here's someone with doing karaoke of a Coldplay song. The other main person involved in this film is Alison Burnett, who's done a ton of films in different genres. He directed this film. But the other writer is Melissa Osborne, who no one will know because she's not really produced anything, but you imagine that she's brought in because she's British. She's the only really British person involved in this film. I don't know what she was doing because at no point in the writing of the script did she establish that we don't call them locker rooms in this country and we don't go to college. So if we're not picking up on those faults, you've got very little hope for how well represented Britain will be in this film. And I think maybe this film is a lot more fun if you don't know anything about Britain. I'm watching this film thinking they're getting Britain all wrong in a culture clash that's supposed to be pointing out how different Britain is to America, yet there's no Britain in here at all. And I just want to say I'm not offended by that as a Briton, I'm offended by that as a fan of romantic comedies.
Lorcan, you are, I'm not going to say you're a rom-com devotee, but you are, of course, a meld of American and Irish.
Sure.
And British. So, let's hear your take on this clash of cultures. Do you like how I fell into that?
Yeah, no. I think Luke said the Anna character is supposed to be a fetishist of British culture, but she just seems to want to go there, and then that's really it.
Yeah, she likes going to libraries and smelling old books.
But yeah, not especially English thing, not like not signature British things, I suppose. But yeah, I think for me, this film could have worked. I just think Sophia Carson, bless her, I think she's got the charisma of like some kind of horrible sandwich. I think she's so unlikable.
Maybe the doner kebab that was on her bucket list. That's their place, don't you know? The doner kebab van.
She's definitely not the catch of the day at the chip shop. I thought Corey Milcrest, I thought he was a hunk. I thought he was very charismatic. I thought he actually carried a lot of the film, and his relationship with Douglas Scott was very good. And to be honest, a lot of the British uni side characters were quite charming. But I think she's supposed to be this kind of not quite manic pixie dream girl, but definitely kind of fish out of water. But she plays it so stoically. She just comes across as extremely defensive, and it's like, well, you're the one coming here. Why are you so defensive about everything? And she wants to try all these different things, but at the same time, she doesn't want to try anything different things. But yeah, I got a lot of red, white, and royal blue, where it's basically just the same characters dating themselves, and I don't really know what the conflict is or what the misunderstanding is or anything like that.
Well, I think this film, not to give too much away, but this film takes a distinct turn halfway through from where you think it's going to actually then where it ends up. And I also felt, and I mean, like I said, Corey Milcrest is, I believe, a Bridgerton alum anyway. I do feel this is like someone sort of threw a whole lot into a generation. Like, right, people love Bridgerton, people loved Saltburn, people love rom-com, people love, I mean, at the moment, England's having like a moment. I feel like it's been put out for all the probably American tourists who are over here right now. I mean, she even has a beautifully written list, which she carefully ticks off in some awful sort of Rocky Star montages. I mean, I say I don't know who this is made for. I guess I've just said who I think it's made for. It's made for not terrible, I'm sorry. No offence taken by American listeners. It's made for Americans who have this vision of Britain. I mean, I'm pretty sure that Oxford Digs do not look like the room that she threw the door open to as she goes in. She's always perfectly coiffed, and I also had a massive issue with the fact, I checked this, Sophia Carson is 32 years old. She's a very beautiful 32, but that did not hold to me as a 23-year-old coming straight off of Harvard for her year in.
Oh, that wasn't one of the issues that I had. I think it's just that she's a very poorly written character generally. And I guess we don't have too much longer to talk about this film, but we have spoken mostly on the culture clash element, which I brought up, so I guess I'm to blame for that. But one other aspect that I think is really pertinent is the film opens with this really interesting premise where the two characters are having a repartee where they're talking about like going, oh, is love less meaningful if we know that our time together is limited? And you think this is a fun question, and these are the kinds of questions that often hold up a good romantic comedy. It reminded me in a way of When Harry Met Sally, not to bring up that hallowed film, like this idea of like, can men and women truly be friends? It's like going, oh, like it's an interesting question that people will think, oh, is the film now going to explore this? And the answer is no, because they don't really have a huge amount of romance in this film. Is they sort of establish that it's a very casual relationship, and as Emma alludes to, there's something that happens halfway through the film that they play off at first like one of those classic rom-com misunderstandings, where it's like going, oh, is the boy having an affair? No, it turns out that he's going through something really quite terrible, which I don't think we want to spoil if anyone does want to watch this film. And you just think, well, now you're talking about a whole completely different film and a completely different relationship. And Dougray Scott comes along and he actually does some acting, which was quite nice to see someone performing in this film. But you forget that it's a romantic comedy about an hour into the film.
Well, I don't think it works as a romantic film because they have no chemistry, as a comedy because it's not very funny, nor indeed as a touching drama because they kind of leave it too late and don't commit to that either. I just thought this film was a mess. It was awful. It was 1 star, and it was not a 1-star film and a 5-star experience like, say, a Lindsay Lohan Irish Wish shenanigans. It's just dreadful.
I didn't completely hate it, but I think it's like you say, if it's targeted for like American tourists, it's quite patronizing. If it's a rom-com targeted at women, I think it's quite patronizing as well.
I would also say, so as a final point, is that there have been plenty of worse romantic comedies.
Yes.
And even though I really disliked the quality of this film, I did have a nice experience watching this.
I am not sure there are.
Yeah, perhaps not necessarily for the reason that the filmmakers were intending, but if you do want to watch a piece of trash, you could do a whole lot worse. It's been a very long time since Netflix has made a romantic comedy.
That is not true. They make Lindsay Lohan ones all the time, and I disagree. I think it was, but this is, look, there you go. Luke is our expert. He says it's fine. I'm sure plenty of people are going to watch it. I would have watched it even if I hadn't had to review it, I imagine. Anyway, My Oxford Year is a certificate 12A, and it's streaming on Netflix right now. Okay, we're going to move on to a very different streamer. Also on Netflix, Wall to Wall. It's a new South Korean, hence no trailer, horror thriller. Director Kim Tae-joon's follow-up to Unlocked, it follows Woo Song, played by Kang Ha-nol, last seen as fake Marine Kang Dae-ho in Squid Game, maxing absolutely everything out to buy an apartment in Seoul as the property market explodes. Woo's property-owning dream turns into a nightmare as strange noises come from the other floors and his finance costs spiral out of control. As Woo tries to solve the mystery, things get more and more shocking. Right, Lorcan, it's just you and me, I think, who've seen this one. Yeah. It's a film that sort of grows in paranoia and blood as it continues. And I've watched very little South Korean film, okay, and I'm going to say, but I'm presuming it's kind of coming from a place of anger about the obsession with wealth and capitalism in South Korea. I mean, I have seen Squid Game, so I base my knowledge on that. How did you find it?
Well, I haven't seen Squid Game, so I have to base my knowledge on Gangnam Style, which was the first thing that clocked me on to this culture of people getting themselves in debt to facilitate a lifestyle. Which, a lot of people could say maybe the UK is caught up in a certain number of ways. I think it's going to be very relatable for this guy who's kind of working himself to death to get into debt. And he's surrounded by other people who have made like quick, fast, and easy money. You've got he works with a load of crypto goons who are on crypto bros who are on there. They're like illegitimate signal Discord chats, whatever. And he's just constantly stressed, and it's a really great setup for a thriller where he's got so much. It's like in a haunted house movie where they put all their money into the house, so they can't just leave and move. They have to put up with it. There's some kind of stakes there. He can't just leave. He has to stick with it and resolve and try to dig himself out of this huge hole that he's got by buying this apartment, which isn't even a particularly big or nice apartment or in a particularly good location. And he has to get a second job just to help finance it. And I thought there's I just think, as with a lot of Netflix stuff, it's 2 hours. There is a really great 80-90 minute thriller in here. And the best chunk for me was this bit where he decides to invest in some crypto just for some as a last minute ditch, and it's really, really tense. And I was kind of on the edge of my seat, and then that segment kind of passes and it doesn't really affect anything in the plot, and I was like, oh, but the best bit of the film you could probably take out and it wouldn't massively affect the film, really.
I absolutely agree. Actually, I felt this film really ran out of steam. I was thoroughly invested at the beginning, and Kang Han-Nul plays, he's very sympathetic in a fairly difficult role because he does spend most of his time just looking manic and concerned. But you really feel for him, and I'm with you. But when you actually find out what's going on and why it's going on, as so often the reality or the end of the story doesn't live up to the premise that you have for the first kind of hour. And like you say, 2 hours is a long time, and there is a lot of violence in this. There's and it's very dark as well. It's like literally very dark. So it's kind of shot in these dark apartments or whatever. And I just struggled, I think, to get to continue to care or to continue the momentum.
Yeah, I think if they streamline the plot a little bit, because you've got the busy job market, you've got his work, you've got the weird noise complaints, which gets into like an almost surreal horror aspect. You've got kind of psychopathic neighbors who you don't know what is up to, but it doesn't really all congeal, or if it does congeal, it's quite messy. But overall, I where the film goes at the end, I like that it wasn't, all rich people are evil, all poor people are evil. It's just, he's just kind of stuck in the middle and he's miserable and he just wants people to leave him alone, which I sympathize with greatly. But I think you can do much worse. It's too long. But if you're a fan of South Korean thrillers, you'll know they're all, regardless where they come from, they all seem incredibly slickly edited. It's a really nice looking film. There's some really creative editing in here. Performances are pretty strong, and the resolutions could have been much worse. I think it's a decent thriller to while away the hours.
I would agree. It was a solid 3 stars for me, and I think it's worth watching. That is Wall to Wall, and it's a certificate 18, as I said, for really quite strong bloody violence. It's streaming on Netflix right now.
So now on to an intimate look into a Hollywood icon.
I've spent my whole life distancing myself from my mother, Jane Mansfield, the sex symbol.
Jane Mansfield has leaped from total obscurity to the most photographed woman in show business.
How do you account for your meteoric rise to fame? I use my pin-up type publicity to get my foot in the door.
Her career made me want to do it differently, but I want to understand her now.
Mariska Hargitay was only 3 years old when her mother, Jane Mansfield, tragically died in a car accident at the age of 34. Here she helms an in-depth look at the life and legacy of someone known in her time as Hollywood's smartest dumb blonde. Emma, you were passionate about discussing this. What can you say about it?
Was I passionate? I guess I was. I didn't know much about Jane Mansfield, to be honest. I think we all know the image of Jane Mansfield, like we say, the curves, the blonde, the blonde bombshell, the tragic end. And Mariska Hargitay, I haven't watched Law and Order, but she's obviously one of our hardest working actresses now in Hollywood, and she's a very familiar face. And I just thought it had really decent reviews, this, because it's her directorial debut. And as you say, it's her trying to kind of uncover it's not just a documentary about Jane Mansfield and how the Jane Mansfield that we know came about. It's also Mariska Hargitay trying to discover her own self, because she has really no memories of her mother at all. She has a plethora of brothers and sisters. I didn't realise that they were all in the car at the time, and they all survived. The 3 adults in the car crash died at the time, and the 4 children who were in the car all survived, but Mariska was only discovered, but she was kind of trapped under the passenger seat, and she was discovered by her brother, who happened to be awake and do it. So it was, I think she's lived her life with this sense of like, what could have been, that could have been me, and it just. I mean, I was saying, Luke's seen this as well. I think he's similarly to me. It's a very, very touching portrait of someone who's both looking for her own identity and her mother's identity. And you find out that at the age of 20, Mariska finds out that the father that she thought was her father, Mickey Hargitay, was not in fact her father. She was a result of an affair that Jane Mansfield had with a Italian Vegas cabaret singer in the 60s. So her whole identity is kind of stripped away at that point. You feel like maybe she's been rebuilding it. I think she's a incredibly private person, Mariska Harkite, and she then has to struggle with having sort of two parents. But she puts this together beautifully with her half sisters on the Sardelli side. Nelson Sardelli is her father, and her half siblings on Mickey Harkite's side. The fact that she always sort of maybe dismissed her mother a little because she felt that she was ashamed of that sort of impression she gave, the baby sounding voice that she used to do, and she never really understood why that came around. Perhaps possibly the bad choices that Jane Mansfield made in men. Definitely not Mickey Harkite. He comes across very, very well. But it just is a really, really thoughtful film, I think, made by someone who has obviously got so much skin in this game, but it's not overwhelmed by emotion. It's just a very thoughtful film about how the death of this huge star, but was also just their mother, and for all of them at such a young age, really affected them all. It was very, very sensitive.
Well, that was an awful. Sorry to jump in. No, you said that you didn't know how much to talk about this film, and then you gave it an absolutely glowing review. I would add, I'm for my sins, I'm not hugely familiar with Jane Mansfield's acting career. I'm familiar with her as a Hollywood star. And I don't think you really need to know that much about her going into this film. In case you don't know, she was a pin-up icon, an actress of the 60s who was considered the smartest dumb blonde, and was tried desperately in her career to go away from the kinds of roles that Marilyn Monroe would have had, and wanted to be in real proper films. She was in an adaptation of John Steinbeck's The Wayward Bus, but she never really managed to get those roles because she'd become typecast as this dumb blonde, and she puts on this voice. And I think one of the things that's really interesting in this film is that it's not a Jane Mansfield bio, it's a Mariska Hargitay bio. And that could be really dangerous when you have a film that's made by someone who's so close to the material. We've seen a lot of these documentaries that are just hagiographies of their mother, their father, their, whatever, their relation, and they don't want to touch on anything really vulnerable. And those films end up having very little to say other than being something that's really meaningful to the person who's making it, but not necessarily to the people watching it. I think this film, Hargitay has to take so much credit for making a really compelling narrative that stands on its own without knowing anything about any of the people involved. Some of the plot details that Emma's touched on are interesting, but I think as a character study, it's just terrific.
And just out of because it's my naive sensationalism. The only thing I really know about Jane Mansfield is that at a certain point she got involved in Anton LaVey, and there's something about a curse. A broader question, I suppose, is: does the film touch on darker elements of Jane Mansfield's life because it's from the dark?
The only dark bit, and I found this really, it's moving is the wrong word, also kind of shocking. She interviews Tony Simba, who is her younger half brother, because Jane Mansfield's final husband was Matt Simba, and I think there is very much there was the understanding that Matt Simba was abusive towards Jane Mansfield at this point, and Tony Simba, when Marissa interviews him very shortly, is just like, I don't choose to listen to that because that just that is not my that's not my way. And I thought that was kind of interesting because everyone else, you're trying to see a portrait of a whole flawed person, and there's also a beautiful scene where Mariska's husband has bought her Jane Mansfield's piano at the end, and I just cried my eyes out at that. It's just it's lovely.
Okay, a lovely insight. My Mom Jane is not rated, but it's now streaming on Now TV.
Cambridge Radio.
Football's back, and so is From the Terraces. Every Sunday on Cambridge Radio, From the Terraces discusses all the weekend's action, including Cambridge United, Cambridge City and Histon.
That helped United because Neil got the players in.
Plus reaction from the managers themselves.
It's nice to get a clean sheet, it's nice to score some goals. But ultimately, it all becomes a little bit irrelevant when the league season kicks off.
From the Terraces, Sunday at 6 and anytime at cambridge.radio.
We all like going out with our four-legged friends. And this September, you can turn an everyday walk into cash for Arthur Rank Hospice Charity. With the Lead On Challenge, your sponsorship will help provide outstanding palliative care in Cambridgeshire. It is free to enter, and each dog will receive a dog bandana to proudly wear when they raise £30. The challenge involves walking 90 kilometres or whatever you can over 30 days from the 1st to the 30th of September. Daisy tells me that's just 3 kilometres a day. Just sign up at arhc.org.uk/lead-on. Come on, girl.
If you're over 60, now's the time for luxury retirement at Rangeford's Strawberry Fields in Stapleford. Make friends in their vibrant community. There's a restaurant and bar with a gym, swimming pool and full clubhouse facilities. Worry-free retirement at Strawberry Fields in Stapleford. Take a tour of their show apartments and make it your place to call home.
rangefordvillages.co.uk. Exclusively for over 60s.
Listen to Cambridge Radio on your smart speaker.
Say Ask Radio Player for Cambridge Radio.
Cambridge Radio. You are listening to the Cambridge Film Show here on Cambridge Radio with me, Emma, Lorcan, Vicky, Stu and Luke. Don't forget to follow us on the socials. Just look for either Cambridge Film Show on Instagram or head to the Cambridge Radio website, which is www.Cambridge Radio. And on the website, of course, you can listen again to any of your favourite shows, including this one. And if you want to keep in touch for the second half of this show, then you can text or WhatsApp us on 07919 070 490, or you can email at studio@Cambridge Radio. Right, we are going back to cinemas now, and we are going to bring her back.
We're going to put you with a foster mum called Laura. You're going to love her.
Welcome to your new home. This is my daughter's room. I want to show you something else. This way.
He's stuffed, mate.
I know I'm a weirdo.
How did you cope with Kathy being gone?
I didn't.
Australian twin brothers Danny and Michael Philippou followed up their successful YouTube horror videos with feature-length film Talk to Me in 2022, which was a very big critical and commercial hit. Now they're back with their sophomore effort, Bring Her Back. This sees Sally Hawkins, yes, Paddington's beloved mother, playing Laura, a very different kind of mother, from what I understand. Have not seen this film. She takes guardianship of siblings Andy and Piper, and they move into her secluded house in the woods with her fellow foster child, Ollie, who seems to be selectively mute and obsessed with watching VHS tapes of Laura's dead daughter, Kathy, along with Laura. This does not feel like a cosy new start for poor Piper and Andy. What could Laura's real plan be? Vicky, it would suggest that the name, the title, they're not holding anything back with the title of this film. Bring Her Back. There's a foster mother. There's a dead daughter. That you can imagine where your mind might go in thinking this film is about. Is it about that? Is it a little bit more complicated than that?
No, they pretty much set it up for what it is, but the way that they get there is horrifying. I really enjoyed Talk to Me. I was excited for this film to come out. I didn't obviously expect to see Sally Hawkins, but she has it in her. I've only known her from The Shape of Water and Paddington, but obviously you look at her as an actress and she definitely has a crazy psychotic mother in her, and 100% did she deliver on that role. But essentially Andy and Piper have lost their father, whether there's a lot of plot blurriness as to how maybe it was. We don't quite know, essentially, by the end of the film how this occurred. But Laura's daughter was blind, and so was Piper in this. So there's also an element of essentially was she picked? Was this family picked for this kind of sacrifice? You have a lot of Blair Witch kind of cut footage, VHS blurriness as well, and it all adds to an atmosphere of pure tension, adrenaline, a lot of emotion. I think if the Philippou brothers are doing something quite right is they always have this kind of climactic scene where it brings the bonds of the characters together. In the original Talk to Me, it was when they were all doing the Ouija board. When it was in this scene, it was after the father's funeral. There's a really kind of charismatic dance scene where you're like, oh, maybe things aren't quite as bad as they seem, but no, they're much worse. And I think alongside obviously the kind of demonic presence that seeps throughout this film, of course, there's a real human treachery about that's very uncomfortable to watch, and the bond between the brother and the sister, and I think in Talk to Me as well, it really kept the film gelled together, and I was very emotional at parts, and I think they have really completed what is to be their future in film.
From what I understand, Lorcan, their YouTube, the Philippi Brothers YouTube stuff is also quite kind of body horror. Is that because there's a lot of body? No, yes.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just throwing that. Is there? I was going to say there's this idea of body horror, and is this body horror as well as is there any supernatural in it, or is it just horrible, evil people?
Oh no, I think the Philippi Brothers' strength definitely lies in. Similar to Robert Eggers, is merging these really out there fantastical supernatural elements and bringing it into just the grim and humdrum daily life type stuff, where it just the evils or whatever lies beyond death merges with real life, and the people's personal flaws come out in the worst possible ways. I agree with Vicky. Sally Hawkins really nails this performance. She is just. I mean, she is up there with, like, I would say almost all-time great villains in this. Like, up there with, like, Nurse Ratched. Like, really just like, oh my god, I cannot wait for the worst possible things to happen to this character, because she is unspeakably evil. And the film pushes that so far beyond just a regular villain. She is unspeakably evil. No matter what her motivation is, she is pure evil from the beginning.
I read a review that sort of describes it as a bit like Hansel and Gretel.
Sure, yeah.
This is kind of like there's a very heavy Grimm, and we all know how dark Grimm is. You know, so there's almost like this fairy tale. So she could almost be a wicked witch.
If bring that into like more mature adolescent politics as well. And the problem is the film goes in a direction that really unsatisfied me. I thought it was so tense and scary and gross and horrible, and I was loving it up until the plot starts to resolve itself, and the plot takes a turn that I found deeply unsatisfactory. And I didn't know if it was because they cast a big star like Sally Hawkins, if that was influenced on what happens to her character or what. And then I did some reading, and the film's dedicated to the Philippi Brothers' friends. I think his name's Harvey something. And apparently he died quite late in the production, and the Philippi Brothers didn't know how to end the film. They had several endings ready to shoot, and they decided to go with the ending that they chose because it was affected by the sudden death of the friend, and they wanted to go with something that was more realistic rather than satisfying. So I appreciate where they're coming from, but for a film, you might be like me and think it's a really thoughtful, interesting ending. You might be not like me and think it's a very thoughtful, interesting ending, or you might be like me and you really, when you have a character this evil, you have to pay it off. You really do, I think.
Would you agree, Vicky, very quickly?
I mean, I was so strung out by, I think, the ending of the film that I actually needed that conclusion. Otherwise, I don't think I could have gone on with the rest of my day in any kind of calm content. So maybe that was my own personal greed, but the way that Talk to Me ended left a lot of... It was very satisfactory as a horror, but for this, I was just satisfactory to be able to leave. No, I'm saying it's a wonderful film. It's really, really good. But I'm glad that it has the ending that it does, so that I could just genuinely go about with my day.
Right, well, that was Bring Her Back, which sounds like it's certainly going to be the heaviest hitter of the week. It's a Certificate 18, and it's showing at Cambridge Cinemas right now.
Now for something completely different, here's Liam Neeson doing comedy.
Once you kill a man for revenge, there's no going back. A voice in your head saying over and over, "That was awesome."
Who are you?
Drebin. Detective Frank Drebin. Thanks.
Police Squad has always been the elite of the elite.
Hi, Daddy. It's me, Frank Jr. Love you.
Hey, Dad. Boy, do I miss you.
31 years after Leslie Nielsen retired his badge, here comes Liam Neeson to pick it up, playing Lieutenant Frank Drebin's more serious son in the self-aware reboot of The Naked Gun. When a bank robber is found dead under mysterious circumstances, it's up to Police Squad, with the help of the criminal's sister, leggy blonde Pamela Anderson, hot off her critical success from The Last Showgirl, to get to the bottom of an environmental tech conspiracy. Stu, the film makes it painfully clear that it's got very big boots to fill. Does it manage to fill those boots, do you think?
Oh, well, I can't really comment on the boots because,
as it's so common a thing with me these days, I hadn't seen the original, and Lorcan is looking at me shocked and aghast.
Jaws last show, and now
exactly. I know. I'm here to drop these bombs. Yeah. But, you know, I think this film is very much like its predecessor. I've probably seen more of the preceding film clipped and repurposed as social media clickbait these days than having seen it as a beginning-to-end movie. And I sense this film may have the sort of the same fate, driving ad revenue for the production companies behind it for some time. Yeah, that's not to say I didn't enjoy it. I thought it was exactly what it said in the tin. You knew from the trailer, and anyone who's seen the original knew what they were going to get in for, and will know what they're going to get in for going to see this film. It is a sequence of immature and silly gags strung together around a police film action narrative, and you know, if you're going in for anything other than that, you're going to be disappointed. But if you go in knowing that, you're going to have a good time. And I had a good time. I had many a laugh out loud moment watching this film, knowing the film, the level of humour wasn't particularly high caliber or anything. It was just silly slapstick comedy, and I don't think I've seen a film like that in the cinema for a very long time, and it was very refreshing.
Absolutely. Vicky, what is the new take on this? How do they reinvigorate it?
Essentially, this film realistically, like the original, should have had me like cringing and hiding in a hole, but in a way it didn't. I don't know what they did differently about this, but it all actually was I found this hilarious at parts, and I don't know how they've pulled that off as someone that has a low cringe tolerance as I do. Maybe it's Liam Neeson, maybe it's the stoicness behind his eyes that really kept me there for some like really, like Stu said, some real play on play, like comedic value that I have never seen in so long. I haven't actually seen a film like this in the cinemas, I think, like that is completely in this generation, but it worked. And Pamela Anderson did a really good job of being his counterpart. I think they were perfectly matched. I'm not saying this is a great film overall, but they definitely pulled off what they were meant to pull off, and I genuinely don't have an answer to how they've done that and to make this as much of a sellout as it's currently becoming.
Well, Emma, I just wanted to piggyback on the Liam Neeson thing. It's got Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson, Paul Walter Hauser, Danny Houston, Kevin Durant, CCH Pounder. These are all big dramatic actors. Do they shift into comedy?
Well, I think Paul Walter Hauser in particular is inspired casting, because George Kennedy played the original Ed Hocker, and I do think that, because obviously Liam Neeson is playing Frank Drebin Jr., so he's playing Leslie Nielsen's son as well, and there is an inspired scene with an owl and Liam Neeson, which I was here for this. Like we said, that the film, the cinemas were packed out. I think all of these people probably want to do it because Naked Gun has a place in everyone's heart. We haven't had a flat-out farce for ages. Vicky, I think you're right. I think this works with Liam Neeson. He's a classic straight man, and he does that really well. It turns out the physicality is great. Also, let's not lie, there's been so much press about the possible off-screen romance of Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson. They do have incredible chemistry, just as Priscilla Presley and Leslie Nielsen had as well. And I did enjoy seeing Priscilla Presley pop up very, very briefly.
Very briefly.
Well, it's only 85 minutes long, look, and they haven't got time to do it. I think that the guy who directed this throws
one at the Lonely Island, I believe.
Well, which makes perfect sense. Throws so much at it. Not everything sticks, but he's throwing so much in a short space of time that it's just like there are sight gags, there are verbal gags, there's farcical physical comedy, and it was an 85-minute good time. I don't know if I'd say you need to spend £12 to go and see it in the cinema, but then it was. I mean, as having I shouldn't say that, should I? I'm on a film show. I meant having got a subscription to the cinema, I greatly enjoy going to catch these kind of things. But it was a 3:10 screening on a Friday, and it was full as anything, and people were having a great time.
Just like a comment of being in the cinema environment, I think what also made it funnier is seeing how, like you said, he threw so much at it, and it was funny to see what hit with different people and what didn't. Like you could see like different people reacting to different kind of gags and jokes on the screen. I found that really entertaining. There was a guy on my row that I was in a whale of the time the whole way through, though. There was non-stop laughter in there.
Yeah. I did definitely hoot when other people weren't.
Yeah, in terms of watching the audience watch it with you, it's a lot more rewarding to see other people laughing in the cinema than, say, going and seeing something like the Minecraft movie and having to sit through a bunch of teenagers yelling at memes because they know they're coming out.
Never get over that.
It really irritated me, that experience. But this was a pleasure. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, a pleasure. And we always want to support, especially rated 15, rated 18 comedies in the cinema. So Liam Neeson stars in the Naked Gun, not Top Gun. The Naked Gun is certificate 15 for strong sex references, and it's playing at the Light and the Everyman. From a reboot 3 decades in the making to a legacy sequel 3 decades in the making, here's let's take a swing at Happy Gilmore 2.
My name is Happy Gilmore. 30 years ago, I decided to give golf a try. But even when you're at the top of your game, you can always shank one. Happy Gilmore sucks?
Oh, eat a bag of dicks!
How are you going to put Vienna through ballet school? It's $75,000 a year. That's 4 years. That's 333 grand.
That's terrible math, Johnny. It's 300 grand. I wouldn't even know where to start.
Let them see the happy I fell in love with.
Adam Sandler returns as the foul-mouthed thug with a heart of gold and a killer golf swing in Happy Gilmore 2. When his wife and mother of his 6 children dies from a stray tee shot, Happy gives up the game and turns to booze until his daughter's ballet teacher informs him that his immaculate progeny, played by Sandler's own daughter, can attend a fancy French dance school for $300,000. Spurred back to his passion, he starts again and quickly rises back to a win-all competition against an extreme sports entrepreneur dedicated to reinventing the game. Emma, Sandler's penned and starred in a lot of Netflix fare by now, but now he's bringing us a sequel to one of the films that really made him famous. Does this bring something special?
Oh my goodness, yes. Me and Vicky, honestly, we've locked eyes across the studio, and we are so excited about this film, which I know this is how he felt. I put this on with my husband. I'm not. Let me preface this. I'm not necessarily a huge Adam Sandler fan, and I haven't actually seen very much of his dramatic stuff, which I know people are very impressed by. I haven't ever seen Uncut Gems. This is me admitting to things that Stuart does. But Happy Gilmore's probably my favourite Adam Sandler film, and I have a husband who is obviously a 50-year-old male, so he likes to play golf. So we were both very excited for this. It is a riot. I think there are 62 cameos. This is what Jago told me when he went through TikTok to tell you all the cameos that are in it. A lot of them are golf players that I don't recognise, but there are also joy from Marcello from SNL, and Bad Bunny is the absolute highlight. They bring back Chris McDonald as Sheena McGavin. They bring back Julie Bowen as Virginia. They bring back Ben Stiller as Hal. They bring back everyone you need to have brought back. And I thought it was a really inventive story. I like this idea that they're trying to make golf sort of like the bad guy is that's making golf more sexy, if you like, or more kind of American sport, because golf is so inherently dull anyway. And I enjoyed the fact that they laughed at that, yet at the same time managed to make a film that people who like golf like as well. I think it's genius.
Well, Vicky, did you find this as irreverent as ever for an Adam Sandler?
Absolutely. I mean, as someone, Happy Gilmore is my Adam Sandler, my Happy Madison production film, and I'm glad it's taken this long, because he has basically made a Happy Gilmore for the next generation. He's definitely suited it with all the cameos that he has. These are just also his friends having a good time, which is any Adam Sandler film, but they really they've pulled this off. It's absolutely hilarious in ways that I was just out laughing, and I didn't know why, but it was just, he really hit the nail on the head with this. And it's obviously not ever going to be as legendary as the original Happy Gilmore, but he has taken it, and he is a very, very good sequel. And I can't believe he got the golfers like Rory McIlroy, who's just come back to do the things that they were saying. And I think it just shows what kind of an Adam Sandler can pull off, especially on Netflix for a weekend release.
And I think he really loves his character. So stepping back into these shoes of really who is inherently a very problematic character, Happy Gilmore, but somehow through the prism of Adam Sandler and this kind of grizzled, the fashion is still there. I'm here. I personally, I found the 2 hours a bit much, and it was kind of a carousel of 62 cameos. It's just going to be a carousel of cameos. But I did like that John Daly, who I've never read, but I presume is the inspiration for Happy Gilmore.
100%.
He must be.
Yes.
He's basically a main character in this, which I greatly admired. Just him sitting on the sofa drinking hand sanitizer tickled me greatly. So any last words on Happy Gilmore?
Watch it. It's great.
Watch it. It's Happy Gilmore Certificate 12, and it's streaming on Netflix.
Well, we had no time because we're going to come to Lorcan's passion project at the very end. So here is a good... Do you want to play a trailer or do you just want to go... Yeah, we're going to have a quick trailer for Zombies 4.
It's been a tough year. I really missed you all.
I have an idea.
Road trip!
We're gonna be fine, so fine. Coach, I promise I will only think about football this summer. We're gonna be back on the road in no time.
We can get split up to find help. We'll cover more ground that way.
What is this place?
Hey! Am I glad to see you?
Daywalker! Vampires!
Easy now. Oh, chill.
I'm not a daywalker. I'm a cheerleader.
Not gonna lie, it's been a pretty slim pickings at the cinema this week due to the fact we have so many big movies out. So hence, Zombies 4 fell into our laps, courtesy of Lorcan, who I believe has seen all of the Zombies films. This was my first introduction. I watched it with some teams last night, and we had a great time with it. The premise is, if you're not aware, you're in... well, actually, I'm going to let Lorcan tell you.
Oh, God. No, I can't remember.
It's like Shady Brook, isn't it?
Shady Brook, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And everybody there, for some unknown reason, is either a zombie or an alien, or in this film, there are some vampires who pop up in it as well.
Yeah, it's very much Halloween Town meets High School Musical. It's of that ilk of The Descendants and things. I was really sick one day, and I needed something to watch, and I love musicals, and I think I've seen every musical now, so I was like, well, I had to scroll all the way to the Z's, and I found Zombies, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch these. And I got along with them fairly well. It's just teenagers auto-tuned into oblivion,
but with perky choreo,
and it's all very inoffensive, pleasant. The songs are catchy. I think the performances really save it. There is a character who's missing from this one. He's in the other three. Who's kind of the whatever the evil girl from High School Musical's called, the vapid blonde who kind of makes these films. She's absent from this one because this one's very much a passing of the torch. But it's very I love musicals because even bad ones are entertaining. But I would recommend it.
Yeah, it's not quite Zac Efron, but I agree with you. It was a lot of fun for an hour and a half, and it is a veritable sensation.
So sadly, that's all the time we have for today. Join us in a fortnight. We'll be discussing Zach Cregger's follow-up to Barbarian and Weapons, as well as a few other films. Till then, it's goodbye from our reviewers.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me and Emma. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Cambridge Film Show.
Cambridge Radio.